welcome hardworking aspirants. Today we are going to study about early Vedic period, and in early Vedic period we will be seeing the map of early Vedic period. Along with that we'll also be seeing the society and what was it comprising of, and along with that we'll also be seeing the very famous caste system or the Varna system. And we see that it's always a trending topic because of reservation, because of caste census and all. So we'll try to get into a bit detail of that. But before we begin, guys, quick info about the TSPSC Group 1 as well as for the Group 2 examinations. We have the live batches running right now, and we are also having 50% discount, so you can call on the numbers given below to inquire for more. And also for the UPSC CSE 2026 and 27, we have the foundation batches running, and you can call on the numbers given below to inquire for more information. Let's get going with the origin theory of the Aryans. Well guys, we saw at the end of the decline of Indus Valley civilization, there is a theory which says that because of Aryan invasion there was this decline of Indus Valley civilization. So who were these Aryans? Okay, so there are three different theories. First theory talks about that the foreign origin, that these Aryans were somewhere from the foreign place and they came to India from outside. The second theory talks about that the Aryans were the original inhabitants of India. And the third theory talks about that the out of India theory that claims Aryans originated in India and they migrated out towards that are the three theories. There are a few prominent people what they have said about the Aryans and the Hindu nationalism. First, let's see the German Orientalist Max Muller. He suggested that Aryan speaking population introduced Sanskritic language and culture to ancient India. Okay, that's Max Muller. Dayanand Saraswati said that the Aryans came to this country from Tibet shortly after the dawn of creation. Bal Gangadhar Tilak goes on to say that Aryans migrated to India from the Arctic Circle in 8000 BC. RSS leader, that's Guruji Goalkar, suggested that Tilak was right about the Arctic origin of the Aryans, but that the North Pole was in India at that time. Swami Vivekananda argued that the Aryans came from India and that ancient India included Afghanistan, and Sri Aurobindo believed that Dravidian languages were closely related to Sanskrit. So these are different theories about the Aryans, but we have yet not reached to any conclusion. So let's see this time period, which is from 1500 to 1000 BC, that's before Common Era. The Vedic age, that refers to the period in Indian history when the Vedas or the oldest sacred text of Hinduism was composed. Okay, so when we talk about the Vedas or the oldest one, that is the Rig Veda. Along with the Rig Veda, you must know there are other three, total four: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Athar Veda, and the Sama Veda. So the early Vedic age that we see from 1500 to 1000 BC marks the formative phase of Vedic civilization, guys. And here we see that there are 3 or 4 rivers which are continuously used. Number 1, Indus River or the Sindhu is mentioned many times. Many times you see the mention of Indus River or the Sindhu in the Rig Veda. Second most mention is of a very pious river, and that is Saraswati. Pious river, and the name is Saraswati. Okay, unfortunately we don't see Saraswati anymore now, but at that time we find this mention of Saraswati there. What about Ganga and Yamuna? Ganga was mentioned only one time. Okay, and Yamuna mentioned 3 times. So what it says about the people of that period? Somewhere or the other they were living or settling in the area of Indus only. Okay, in the area of Sindhu only. Otherwise, if they would have traveled to the middle part of India, they must have seen or witnessed Ganga and Yamuna more than what has been talked about it. So while this period, whatever we see that is reflected in the Rig Veda, and the one important point of Rig Veda that you should understand, that it traveled through phases in history with the help of Shruti. What is Shruti? That supposingly there is a guru, okay, there is an individual and he knows something. The Rig Veda is believed that it was heard by some, you can say the rishis or the maharishis, and then they transferred it, okay, to their sishyas, and then it was transferred to their sishyas. So this Shruti system to here, this was there, and then this Rig Veda or the Vedas are divided into different parts, okay. One, you can say Brahmana. There is a part which is known as Brahmana. Other, you can say that there is Samhita, okay. One is Brahmana, one is Samhita. Then you also have the Aryanakas, okay, that's the third part. And the fourth part, you say, that is Vedant. Vedant is also known as Upanishad. So the Brahmana means to remember, okay, to remember the Vedas, that's known as the Brahmana. The Samhita is the you can say the ritualistic part, the rituals that are done, that is the Samhita. What about the Aryanakas? Those are the philosophical thinking, the philosophical thought process. Those are the Aryanakas. And lastly, we have seen Vedanta. It gives you the crux, okay, it gives you the crux of the philosophy, okay. So these are the parts of the Vedas or the Rig Veda that you can see. If here we see in the map, it is very clearly evident. Here is the river Saraswati, okay, and this is Sindhu or the Indus river, okay. This is Sindhu or the Indus river that you can see. It is flowing there. This is the pathway of Sindhu, okay. And along with that, we have some of the places which are named as Chedi. You see Ganga and Yamuna here, and see the settlement is till here only. To witness Ganga and Yamuna, you have to come more deep down below, okay. You see Bharata is mentioned here, one of the important tribes at that time. Puru is mentioned here. Then you have the Anu, you have the Shiva, you have the Yadu. So all these are mentioned here, and forget not, this is the from the time period of 1500 to 1100 or 1000 BCE, okay. Now let's see some of the key features. What were the key features? The society was at that time nomadic. What is the meaning of nomadic? They were not settling at one place, and pastoral, okay. So more and more it was not based on the agriculture, rather based on the animal, okay. Aryans were the kinship based it was, and the tribal society it had. Polity, how was the polity running at that time? Tribal units called Jana, okay, not a territorial state, but the tribal unit was called as Jana. And who was the chief? The chief was the Rajan, okay, led by Rajan, the tribal chief, supported by assemblies like the Sabha and Samiti. Now let's see the next point. Jana views economy and religion. Jana, a tribe community linked by blood ties, okay, the blood relations were there in Jana. Then Vish, what is Vish? Vish is a broader clan based unit, that is the group of several families was called as Vish. How was the economy running? Obviously the cattle rearing was the mainstay. Number of the cows, says the more number of cows if you are having, you are more rich, okay. Like Elon Musk, right now you can see at that time, if you have Elon Musk at that time, he might have had lakhs and crores of cows. Nature worship, Agni, Indra, Varuna, no idol worship and no temples. We are talking about the early Vedic period, don't forget that. Now let's get ahead and let's see some of the other points of early Vedic period. So if you see the settlements, early Vedic people were semi-nomadic and settling in the Punjab plains and along the Saraswati river. So this is the this green color. If you see guys, this green color settlement, this what we were seeing. That is why they have not talked about the Ganga and Yamuna. Villages of the Grama were temporary, because why? Because they were the nomadic people. They are on the move, reflecting a pastoral lifestyle. Permanent structures emerged later as agriculture gained prominence, okay. So later you will have the prominence of agriculture. But now one thing more which you should understand here is the pastoral lifestyle. So when you are having animals with you. Okay, supposing you are having cows, so you need to feed the cows. So what you'll be searching, you'll be searching the pastoral lands, or you'll be searching the grasslands, and for that you have to always be on the move. So that is the important point which you should understand. Let's see the society structure. What was the society structure? The family or the kula was the basic unit. Okay, governed by a patriarchal system led by the eldest male kulapa. Okay, families formed villages that was known as the grama, which aggregated into clans. Clans were known as the vis, and late larger tribes were known as the jana. Okay, society was egalitarian, so it was based on rights for everybody. It was not that somebody is royal and somebody is, you know, lower. With no rigid caste system, again guys, no rigid caste system. Occupations were not birth based, though distinctions existed between Aryans and non-Aryans. We can see there were some distinction between the Aryans and the non-Aryans, like the Dasas and the Dasyus, but the occupations were not birth based. Okay, that is an important point which you should take from here. Gender role. At that time, women had a very respectable position. Some even became renowned scholars and composers of Vedic hymns such as the Gargi, Maitri, Lopamudra and Ghosa. Women could attend assemblies, choose their husband through Swamvara, and were considered productive members of the society. The birth of a son was highly desired to continue family and religious duties. So, though they were happy with the female child, but they still wanted the male child to be there. Okay, now again, the status of women, we have already seen that it was very good at that time, and they participated in religious as well as the educational things, and the practice of sati, child marriage or parda was absent. We don't find practice of sati, child marriage or parda. Rather, we have seen the cases of remarriage. Mostly there was monogamy, that was single marriage system, but we also have seen some of the instances of polygamy also there. Now let's see the caste system of the Varna. This is very interesting. So we have this system where you have the Brahmin or the priest or the academics, the Kshatriyas, the warrior king, the Vaishyas as the merchant or the landowner, the Shudra as the commoner, peasant or the servant, and the untouchable as the outcast or out of caste, street sweepers and all. Now let's see here, it has been given in very beautiful way. So if you see guys, the Brahmana from Purusa, that is from Purusa's mouth, is who is Brahmana. Symbolism is speech, communication and knowledge. Role in society, spiritual leaders, educators and custodian of knowledge. These were the Brahmanas. Now Kshatriyas, these were the warriors or the rulers. From Purusa's arms these were made. Symbolism, strength, power and protection. Role in society was as the protectors, judges and administrators. Now Vaisyas or the farmers and merchants. From Purusa's thighs these were made. Symbolism, stability, sustenance and mobility. Role in society was business owners, traders and agriculturists. Sudras, these Sudras were the workers and artisans. From Purusa feet they were made. Symbolism was service, support and foundation. Role in society was laborers, craftspeople or the servants. And then lastly we have Chandals, okay, or the untouchables. Outside the Varna framework, they were, symbolism was impurity, pollution and the other things like handling the dead, cleaning waste and butchers and leather works. So these all were done by the untouchables. We must also know about the Manusmriti. That was somewhere the other mentioned in 200 BC to 200 C, is one of the earliest texts that reference people considered impure. It formalized rules of punishment for social contact with untouchables. That is mentioned in the Manusmriti. Okay, so we have seen one very important point here when we have talked about the Varna system. Please always remember that, and that here is that Varna system was not based on the basis of birth, okay, but it was based on the basis of the work that you are doing. And secondly, there was a distinction of Varna on the basis of color. Okay, so a Varna was also like if Shyam Varna or someone is, you know, not that fair. Okay, so there was distinction of this on the basis of color also, so that you should remember. The The polity, the tribes were ruled by a Rajan elected by tribal assemblies, that is the Sabha and Samiti. The Rajan's authority was checked by these assemblies, ensuring participatory governance. The Sabha, what was the Sabha? The council of elders or the elite people. Okay, elite people coming together, that was Sabha. Advised on administration, while the Samiti, what was this Samiti? The common people coming together and sitting. So that was the Samiti. For the brighter tribal assembly debated a major issues. Okay. So this was part of that administrative roles. Let's see. The key officials included the Purohita or the priest. Priest was always included while decision making. Senani, the army chief, and Gramani, that is the village head. No standing army existed. If there was a warlike situation or a battle-like situation, they had to rearrange the mobilized. Those warriors were mobilized during the conflicts. The Rajan was a tribal leader, not a hereditary monarch. His duty is protecting the tribe and cattle from enemies. Okay, what was his duties? To protect the tribe and cattle from the enemies. And the Rajan was a tribal leader. He was not a hereditary monarch, but we have seen the continuation from the very same family for 3, 4 or 5th generation. Leading in warfare and mediating disputes, collaborating with the Purohita to perform rituals for tribal welfare. That was the work of the Rajan. Let's see the economy and trade, primarily pastoral economy and agriculture with some barter trade that we have seen at that time. No coinage, barter system was prevalent. I've told you about the barter system. Supposingly someone is having mango and he needs some cloth. This is person A, and there was person B who is having cloth and he wants mango. So these two people will meet. He will give the cloth and get the mangoes. So this is known as the barter system. What was the difficulty here? To search that I should have the cloth and he should desire the cloth, and he should have the mango and I am desiring the mango. So that was the disadvantage of the barter system, but at that time no coinage was there, so barter system existed. Practiced limited agriculture, use of cow as a unit of wealth. I've said you before also that as many as cows you are having, the more richer you are at that time. Now, what was the economy? Pastoralism that we have seen. Cattle rearing was the primary economic activity, with cattle serving as the main measure of wealth. Agriculture secondary to pastoralism, that's barley was cultivated using wooden plow, and irrigation methods were rudimentary. So barley is an important grain. Please remember that a barter system prevailed, exchanging cattle, grains and crops. Metals like coppers were used, but coins were absent at that time. Religion and culture, where worship of nature gods like Indra, Agni and Varuna was there. So Indra is mentioned most of the times, like he is mentioned about 250 times. And who was Indra? Indra was the warrior god or the god of storm, the god of rain. That was Indra. Okay, most powerful as you can say at that time, and he was also known as Purandhar. Okay, what's the meaning of Purandhar? The meaning of Purandhar means the one who breaks the forts. Okay, so he is the Purandhar. Now Agni, second, you can say Agni was you can say like a messenger. Okay, intermediary god. So when you are giving something to the Agni, it is going directly to the god. Okay, and he was second mentioned when we are talking about the Vedas. So 200 times is the mention of Agni, and the rest we see there are gods like Surya or the sun. Then you have the gods like Varun, okay, for the cosmic balance, also the god of water, and there are many others also. So sacrificial rituals were like yajnas were central to religious life. Oral tradition, the Rig Veda was composed during this period, and simple lifestyle used wooden tools and carts, enjoyed music, dances, games and chariots races. One more thing which you should remember from here, and that is what? That Gayatri mantra that comes from Rig Veda's third mandala. Okay, that is an important point that you should remember from here. Okay, let's get ahead. Religion practice henotheism dominated with worship of natural forces personified as deities like Indra as the war deity, Agni as the fire deity, or Varuna as the cosmic order. Rituals, yajnas and sacrifices led the Purohita were central to appease gods. Okay, one more thing. They were appeasing gods for not spirituality purpose. Please remember this. Okay, they were not spiritual people and they did not wanted spirituality from God. Rather, they wanted the prosperity from God. Okay, they wanted the material things from the gods. That should be remembered. Beliefs: no temple or idol worship, rituals focused on fire altars and chanting hymns. The afterlife concept was vague, though ancestral reverence existed. Okay, important words and terms. Now this is very important. Veda. What does Veda means? The sacred text of the Vedic period: Rig Veda, Samved, Yajurved, Atharved. Okay, so that is for the Vedas. Varna, the fourfold social class system, that is the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudras, which became more rigid in the later period. Jana, a tribe or clan, the basic social unit in the early Vedic society, which smaller tribal unit within the jana, sometimes used for tribe itself. Grama, village or settlement, the basic unit of habitation. Sabha, assembly of selected elders, or you can see the elites. Okay. Samiti, larger tribal assembly for broader decision making. So it also had the common people along with the king. And Bidhata. What was Bidhata? Tribal assembly where women could participate. That was known as the Bidhata. Then we'll see the Gavishti. What is Gavishti? Search for cows, often used to describe conflict of war in the Rig Vedic period. Then we'll Bali. Bali is tribute or text collected by the king. Rita, cosmic order or natural law. This was asked in UPSC Prelims. Gotra, clan or lineage, important for marriage and kinship. You could not marry in the same Gotra. Rashu and Vajpayee, royal sacrifices performed by kings for legitimacy and prosperity. Kulapa means the head of a family. Vrajpati or Gramini, it means the head of the village or pastoral lands. And Gomat means a wealthy man who owned many cows. Okay, so that was Gomat. Now, transition to the later Vedic period, that will be seeing in the next video. So till 1000 BCE we have seen this period, and after this we will be seeing some of the changes that will be coming in the next video. Let's see some of the very important questions. Which of the following statements about the early Vedic period is correct? There was a rigid caste system based on birth. No. Women were allowed to participate in tribal assemblies. Yes. The main occupation was settled agriculture. No. Pastoral it was. Trade was conducted using coins. No. Barter system was used. So B should be the correct answer, and B is the correct answer. You can pause the video and see the explanation here. Try answering this video by pausing. Try answering this question by pausing the video, and let's see what's the correct answer. Which of the following is the oldest Veda? Yajurved, Samved, Atharved, Rig Veda is the correct answer. Let's see the next question. Which of the following statement about the later Vedic period is correct? The Varna system became flexible. The status of women improved. The priestly class gained prominence. There was no use of iron tools. And they are talking about the later Vedic period. Okay, Varna system that was flexible, while the early Vedic period also, the status of women, early Vedic period also, there was no use of iron tools. Yes, that was also the priestly class Brahmins gained prominence. Okay, so I think the right answer should be C here, and the C is the correct answer here. Let's see, during the early Vedic period, the term Gavishti refers to what? Search for new pastures, search for cows, cattle sacrifices, cattle trade. Search for cows should be the correct answer here, and that is the correct answer. Last question, which of the following is not associated with the early Vedic period? Sabha Samyukti, it was. The worship of nature gods, it was. Use of iron tools, no, this is not. Pastoral economy, it was. So what should be the correct answer? C should be the correct answer, use of iron tools. And guys, with that we have come to the end of the video, and I wanted to talk to you about this mentorship program. Guys, it is very important. Number one reason, because it's done by Deepika ma'am, who is having vast experience of 20 plus years. And number two, a mentor helps you to bridge the gap between an aspirant and administrative officer. If you gonna try yourself, it might take 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but when you have a mentor, that can be bridged very quickly. So you can call on the numbers given below and inquire for more, and we'll meet again, but for that you need to subscribe. Thank you.